What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Press X Podcast. Today, we are doing top 10 PlayStation 2 games. So this is going to work the same way as all of our other top 10 lists. Todd Brousard here, Nick Hassell, Kevin McManus, going to be doing our individual top 10 lists. We're going to be tallying them up with some points. Number 10 is worth 1, number 9 is worth 2, number 1 is worth 10, etc. At the end of it, we will add the points together, do some tiebreakers, and make a top 10 list for you guys. The rules of the list are basically, this is, if you get a PlayStation 2, these are the games you should get. These are the 10 games that we think that you should get, with some rules being 1 per franchise. So this is not going to be, a Grand Theft Auto festival or a Zelda festival if this was a Nintendo list.
Yeah.
It had to originally release on this console. No ports, it went to Xbox first and then it showed up here. The good example of that is Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
Came to GameCube first, then came to PlayStation 2, so it cannot be on this list.
That's an honorable mention, I guess, because I think that would have been on all 3 of our lists.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so.
But when we get to GameCube, we'll talk about that game, I am sure. I think that's it for the basic.
Yeah, and like you said, this isn't breakdown. Like we're not running this as like a website and we're saying like this is the absolute best 10 games.
Oh, I am. My list is the absolute best 10 games. I don't know what their list is.
I treated mine more as like I like a little bit of variety. So if it was just like 10, like I wouldn't do like 10 racers, even though back then that's all I was doing was playing racing games.
I agree. My list would have been a top survival horror list if I did that, because I think the PlayStation 2 has the best survival horror games.
Yeah,
I agree.
And there would have been a lot.
So yeah, that I don't know how many factors go into like where it's at and if it's on the list, but I know variety helps.
Critically acclaimed, personal taste.
Yeah, I
all the
obviously
stuff.
check Metacritic and stuff like that too, just for a couple of things. But that's like a little bit nugget information.
How easy it is to kind of get into. Like you don't want to throw somebody into something that they're going to be like, "Wow."
Yeah,
right.
And there's obviously like, why would you throw someone into version 6 of the game if number 1's on? A lot of factors play into it. So you'll see that as we describe, I guess, why.
With that said, we'll start 10, 10, 10, 9, 9, 9, kind of go down the line. Todd, why don't you start out for us? So I will say, we've done these a couple times. This is the first one we've had Todd on for, because we were doing the one-on-ones for a while. Kellen didn't feel comfortable doing a PlayStation 2 list. I brought Todd on to do it because I was tired of, just wanted to get some more variety into
it helps
this.
the points too.
Yeah.
So tiebreakers and whatnot.
Yeah. So Todd, what is your number 10? I'm very scared of your list, by the way.
NBA Street 2 is my number 10.
Ooh.
So this game is, it's very different from a lot of sports games. It's very fun. Even if you don't like sports, it's a lot of fun. Like graphically, it was really cool for the time. It's just, I don't know. It's just a great game to hop into. I think it's a great buy if you're playing PlayStation 2 for the first time.
I don't hate that, actually. As far as sports games go, which I was trying to think of some sports games that we had on other lists, and I don't even know if we actually did. But that is a very fun, arcadey sports game that I actually enjoyed quite a bit.
It's a fantastic couch co-op. If you're doing a one-on-one, holy shit, this game's fun.
That was this era was really good in sports games of being like pick up and play sort of thing. Not like, hey, watch this cutscene of your player transitioning from college to pro. Right. That's cool and all for now, but back then it was, hey, dude, I'm just going to boot up my PS2. You want to come play? And it was like, yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah, this console was kind of almost the perfect perfect is obviously a subjective thing, but it wasn't too heavy into story where the story was overshadowing the gameplay, and it wasn't too heavy into the gameplay where there was no story. This was kind of the meeting ground of the two for a lot of series and a lot of games.
Another reason I like this game, it's got one of my favorite soundtracks in a PlayStation 2 game. The soundtrack is really sweet. It gets you really into the game. Fun times.
Licensed music.
Yeah.
It's like those Tony Hawk games. It's like, the licensed music's so good.
Oh, yeah.
Nick, what is your number 10?
Number 10, Devil May Cry 3, Dante's Awakening. First thing I put, and first thing I'll always say about it, is that it was so good that it nearly erased the abortion of a game that Devil May Cry 2 was. Almost deleted it from memory. That's how good it was. I like it because the difficulty shot up a whole lot in this game.
Mhm.
That's kind of people's
From
biggest
the previous two?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's people's biggest complaint. But this was back in the era where games were difficult for a long time, and then like it hit the point where it just took a dip, and games kind of got a little more arcadey and a little easier and more approachable and casual. But this one kicked it back up to 11, sort of, and made the difficulty shoot way up, and that was mostly in part due to the enemy AI, which is probably it's not like the most outspoken best qualities about the game, but people who've played it at least will kind of understand that enemy AI is a really big factor in this game, because obviously switching between like guns, blade, all these things that Dante can do, if you focus too much on one thing, the enemies would start adapting to it. And like if you're just swinging your blade around, people are going to spawn behind you and start attacking, or guns, whatever, they're going to have their defenses up and start swarming you from like the sides and stuff like that. So it was really cool. It had something like that, and it was actual like intelligent difficulty, and not just, oh, that guy one-shots me, sort of thing that games can obviously do. It's like, oh, our game's so hard, you'll never beat it, sort of thing. But this one's just like intelligently difficult, and that made it really cool. The bosses also had that feature to them, so it made boss fights even more of a grand scale thing. So honestly, I feel like this game's biggest rival, I know they didn't come out exactly the same time, but God of War obviously had the big over the top boss fights and cutscenes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And this kind of rivaled it, because now you actually have, it's not so much a boss run game as God of War could be, but actually rivaled it in a good way. And also it had a ton of cool customization in it too. You could pick a style and just stick to it, sort of thing. The game actually had like a style system built into it too, so it made you not just push the same attacks all the time. It rewarded you and gave you cool, like, awesome, or that was dope, sort of messages when you would do really cool combos and pull some sick moves off. So it's really cool. It nudged you in the right direction, like, hey, don't do the same attack every time. The enemies are going to crush you. Hey, don't do the same attack every time. You'll get cool stuff on your screen and whatever. So It was nice. It was like a gentle like push in the back sort of thing to kind of break you out of just hitting like square circle or something all the time. So it was nice. And like I said, it erased a certain game out of people's memories and existence, and it was just really good.
So let me start my number 10 by saying this is one of the harder lists that we had to do. I think that this list has a lot of like 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10 games, a lot of really good ones, and excluding the 10 spot was really hard, because that's where you say, I'm excluding all these other games.
Right.
And there's so many games that I'm like, oh, I could put it here. And you were talking about how much you changed your list, and that I changed mine a lot more than the other list that I did. Because for a lot of these, I'm like, okay, this, okay, we got it, and then there's a couple choices to make. This one, I started to struggle when I got lower. I'm like, all these games
the 360
feel like they
list,
could be on here.
OG Xbox lists were my most difficult, and I'm sure I'll change the original Xbox one a billion more times between now and then. This one was up there because, yeah, you get a lot of things that are kind of on the same level fighting each other. So.
Yeah. With that said, my number 10, I'm locking it in now, Prince of Persia, Sands of Time. This was an awesome platforming action game. Easily one of the best released up to that point, and I think still stands really strong as one of the best. Really cool time mechanics that we hadn't seen that much in games, where they played with the idea of what a death and a game over is in a game, and learning from your mistakes up to the point where you made the mistake. It was almost like the rare replay rewind feature built into an old school game, and
I like that it wasn't
nice.
a complete cop out sort of system. Like it wasn't cheap, but yeah, like you said, it brought you back basically to the point where you messed up. So it just kept the pace like just going.
Yeah. On top of that, the combat was satisfying. It kind of had an Assassin's Creed feel to it before Assassin's Creed. The story was fine. I don't think it was excellent, but I don't think you need that for what the game is. So yeah, Sands of Time, actually, I think now kind of lost in the shuffle to be underrated.
Yeah.
For what it's done and how good it is.
I would gladly take a new Prince of Persia game, like brand new, and obviously with the technology we have now, over a new Assassin's Creed or a
I
new
think
Horizon
a
or
lot
a
of them
new.
would, yeah.
Great.
I've actually kind of been waiting. I know we do predictions for E3, and that's kind of always been in the back of my mind. Like, what if Prince of Persia showed up? I'm hoping that the movie that they released didn't like kill off all interest in Prince of Persia.
Yeah. Holy cow.
Todd, number 9.
All right, number 9.
Still scared.
Yeah, this one was kind of weird for me because this is actually like the game I spent the most time playing on the PlayStation 2. So this is Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3. So this was one of those games like, I mean, I'd probably give it like a 6 or 7 out of 10, but it's just a lot of fun to play. Like the game is like
one of the highest reviewed games of all
it's
time.
like a 97.
well, I'm just saying as far
Yeah.
as like storyline and things like that. Like this is not a game you're playing to like have this like in depth connection.
Hey,
with
you're just
your
playing it for
character.
fun.
Right?
That's
It's
fine.
just
You
a
can play
fun game
for fun.
But this is like a game that I played, and the next day I'd go to school and be like, dude, I got like 1 million score on one of my tricks I was doing. And you'd be like, no way.
It's a great pass the controller sort of game.
Oh, yeah.
too. Like, you
Yes.
beat this score now.
Yes.
Something like that.
Such a fun game.
they had the horse or skate, I think they called it, mode in the game where you tried to do the trick and beat the score and all that
was
stuff.
a blast.
What a great time. I've also arguably spent the most time with the Tony Hawk series on this generation as well.
And I picked 3 out of all these because I feel like they had really like polished it down from the other ones. Once again, great music selection here.
Oh, yeah.
The customization with your character is really cool. They added new things you could do in the game, like trick-wise. The graphics were a lot better.
Yeah,
It was
two
really fun.
added the manual system, 3 added the revert, and those on top of each other is just like, that
It was
took your
amazing.
scores from like
Yeah.
25,000 to like, oh yeah, just 2 million.
Yeah.
Just casually
Yeah.
drop that controller and just be like, what?
Yeah.
What did you do?
Super fun. Really fun to watch you play as well.
Yeah.
So, great game.
I can remember 3 or 4 people sort of like this, and you're just playing, and they're harassing you and dogging you, sort of thing. You just
I
beat
had
the
that
score and
for
pass
quite a
it.
few games on this
Yeah.
list where people are it's maybe single player, but you're not playing it single player. You're playing it as a group.
Right.
Really enjoy that stuff. Also, they only had 2 ports, so it's kind of their fault for for that. But
Yeah.
Number 9, Gran Turismo 3 Ace-Spec. I think this is the most approachable Gran Turismo of the series. For new players, obviously. I think it's the most fun game of the series. It's had an arcade mode that was really fun. It gave you immediate access to like the top end cars, so that was cool. A lot of things that people go through when they're playing Gran Turismo 1, 2, 3, 4 is that there's the big grind to get to the top end stuff. You have to earn your licenses, you have to beat these time trials, win these circuits, all that stuff. This one was just like arcade mode. Hey, you just want to play the cool stuff? Here you go, sort of thing. And it had the most simplistic design. Another reason why it was easy for people who maybe hadn't played Gran Turismo to jump into it. And it was very straightforward, which is nice because ever since then, I'd like to say Gran Turismo 3 is the last one of the series before like excruciating detail was put into every single portion of the game and just made it like overly complex. I mean, you said the same thing about Gran Turismo Sport. When you put it in and looked at the menu, you were just like,
yeah, there was a lot.
What?
I felt like I was at the car dealership picking out a car.
This was the last game before they made it for like car enthusiasts and like professionals and stuff like that. So it was nice that they streamlined it and it paid off. I think this is one of the best selling Gran Turismo's games, just individual games. Widely regarded as one of the best, if not the best, and I think it had a lot to do with the fact that it incorporated a lot more people rather than being inclusive, kind of like they are now, or exclusive, whatever. But spent way more hours than I even cared to try and figure out playing this game.
That's fair. That's fair. Number 9. This is a little controversial one. Here we go.
Uh-oh. Hot takes?
Hot take. Grand Theft Auto Vice City.
Okay.
Grand Theft Auto Vice City is my favorite of the Grand Theft Autos. I am not the biggest Grand Theft Auto fan. I remember playing 3 so much.
Yeah.
I remember loving Vice City. That was another pass the controller thing. Go to the friend's house who's actually allowed to own Grand Theft Auto. Yeah. Pass the controller. All have a blast with it. The game still holds up so well because it did the 80s thing. So it's set in kind of this perfect era of time. The licensed music and everything that it has with the radio is fantastic. It's the only one that I bothered to even really attempt the story to unlock the full map, because to me, Grand Theft Auto is about pure mayhem and running around and getting up that police rank and, not getting, wasted or busted or any of those things. Just really enjoyed this. The setting was great, and I really do think still this is where I would want to be with Grand Theft Auto. Like, I really like these time period idea that they did with this one. So
the 80s,
so
80s helps, because 80s is pretty ridiculous as far as hairstyles, clothing, cars.
Yeah, this whole Miami Vice thing going on.
A lot of cocaine.
It almost is like it lends itself to Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah,
it's sweet.
Yeah, and then obviously the gameplay still had the tweaks of 3, like they upgraded 3, but it wasn't to the point where it like they fixed some things, like the infinite run stuff where you just keep tapping the button and you can run for it. Like, I love that. I don't like a stamina bar. That's not fun.
Yeah,
like, to me,
fair.
Grand Theft Auto is the fun part of it. And then they turned it into an RPG later down the line. I'm like, I don't know what you're doing.
They had a cool cheat in this game. I believe Vice City was the first one, where you could give all the pedestrians a gun, and then you could turn them into like psychotic
and then
killers.
you can make them aggressive. Yeah.
This is definitely the game where it got it was very fun, but it was very ridiculous at the same time, which just increased the fun part of it.
3 was pretty serious. I mean, obviously you did goofy stuff. And
your guy's face was stuck in that very serious pose all the time.
Good old Claude from 3. Yeah, like, it was serious, but they took it in some funny directions and like had some fun with it. But yeah, Vice City was just like, screw it, let's go.
Let's drop
they
all
knew
the
what they were
potatoes.
making.
Yeah.
Basically, there wouldn't be a Trevor in 5 if Vice City hadn't took a risk and just gotten kind of nutty with something.
Very much a staple in the series.
Oh yeah. So there it is, number 9, Vice City. Some people might think that's low. I'm not the biggest GTA guy, but I do very much like this one. What's your number 8?
Vice City.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, really. Very much the same reasons.
Yeah.
I love the 80s. I love GTA. I played a lot of the other ones on the PlayStation 2, like GTA 3,
San Andreas.
I like those a lot. But this one really stuck out to me as the one I played the most, and I played it the most with my friends. And even like looking back at it, it's still funny. I would still go back and play it.
Yeah, you can still go back and
it's
like
really
I have
fun,
actually played this recently.
Yeah.
And it's still, it doesn't hold up like graphically, obviously,
sure.
but gameplay wise, it's a total
It's
blast
very fun,
still.
yeah.
And the cheats help a lot.
Yeah.
It's kind of like The
It's
Sims, where you
super
put in
fun.
like the money cheat, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
like just being able to fast get to the fun part of the game, which is a problem that a lot of games had, even going back to them. Like, typically you remember like the beginning parts of the games, because that's the part that you played over and over and over. You didn't have a memory card or whatever it was. You rented the game. So any game that gives you like cheats to kind of get there quicker is
the main ones I cared about, other than fun ones like giving everyone guns and then turning them like super batshit crazy.
Yeah.
There's like a quick money cheat, or like sometimes you're just actually in the middle of a mission and someone runs out in front of you and you run over them. It's like get your wanted level way up, and it makes the difficulty of that mission exponentially harder because you have cops. And it's like, I didn't mean to do that sort of thing, so let's just erase that one. Like, I don't need a helicopter chasing me.
But I do need a tank.
That's my favorite cheat. Tank.
Boom. Yeah.
This was also the first one where I played where I beat the story. The first,
that's how I felt. This is the first one I didn't beat it because I think I got to. Is that the one that had missions with like remote control?
Yep.
Yeah. Not doing that.
I thought that was fun.
Nope.
I enjoyed it.
But I did the most story out of this one. So
GTA 3 didn't do the story. Just tried to get up my stars all the way up.
Really like the story in 3.
Yeah.
Number 8, another racer. So much for variety. Burnout 3 Takedown. I call this, and a lot of people call it too, absolute pinnacle of arcade racing for any system in any time period. The game in which all arcade racers are judged. I think the Takedown system provided one of the most like competitive and like adversarial sort of systems in any multiplayer style game. It just felt really good to just smash someone into a wall.
Yeah.
I think like the overwhelming like speed that you felt with the top tier cars and like the flashiness of taking people down just felt way more, or like I said, satisfying, like way better than like hitting someone with like a red shell or dropping a green nitro crate in front of them, watching them blow up. Like it felt so good, especially because this was kind of the era too. It might be more Xbox related, but like playing online with people, you know, you're in a lobby with people, you can hear them talking, and you smash them into a wall, you just get your eardrums blown out because people are yelling curses and obscenities at you. It's great. It felt so awesome. Good to just smash the hell out of someone. So many areas to like race in and challenges to complete to get like the real top end cars. And I think Burnout 3 has the best non-racing mode of any racing game, and that's crash mode. Yes. And that's something you can easily just lose another 20 hours of your life playing that. And as far as hours go, like it's easy to spend like 100 hours into this game, especially with multiplayer. That drags it out a little bit further. But, you know, there's always that, man, I could get that really cool like Ferrari or Lamborghini looking car. Just got to beat this challenge. Okay, I'll try it over and over. Got it, sort of thing. Or get 1 million score and crash, and there you go, sort of thing. So, yeah, just had a little bit of everything, like downtime, just kind of hanging out. Maybe you're eating or something, play crash mode, pass the controller sort of thing. And when you're ready to get back into it and crush people, just normal story mode or multiplayer mode.
I didn't play a lot of racing games at the time,
yeah.
But this is the one we all played. It was just very fun.
Yeah, it is
fast-paced. It's very destructive. I just loved it.
Yeah.
It's one of the few, too, like when you hit that nitro button, like you see like the visual effects of the screen, and just is real fun just playing, not only just racing people, like you're obviously, you know, drifting around corners and blasting boosts and stuff like that, taking jumps and whatever, trying to find shortcuts, but like also the mini game of dodging traffic.
Yeah.
Just
the
added
maps
so
on
much.
this game are really cool, too.
Yeah.
Like visually looking.
Yeah, there's a lot, too, that was just like, hey, just do a few laps around the city, or this one was like, hey, there's this countryside.
Yeah.
Go around, like, all of Asia or something like that. It felt like an endurance race. Yeah, just that, and like I said, dodging all the traffic and stuff like that, because, you know, you could be the best person at taking people down, but if you can't dodge the little, like, fish trucks or something in front of you, then you're screwed sort of thing. So this is just so much going on, and that was one of those, like, my hands were sweaty. I was like excited.
Spaghetti.
Yeah. just everything after a race, and it felt real good, especially getting down to like the last stretch and just crushing someone, taking that last lead, and there you go across the finish line, and there you are. Yeah, just like I said,
I agree with this.
Very, very adversarial.
You want me to change your
I didn't get as much like, I crushed you in like Mario Kart. Mario Kart just like, eat shit. Here's a red shell. Or, you hit my banana. It sucks for you. Here I go. This one is just like, man, I crushed him.
Interesting.
And, you know, there's a good catch-up system, too, where you knocked that guy out a lap ago. Well, here he is again because of, like, the extra boost or something like that. And I was going to take you out sort of thing. So, real nice.
Ready for another hot take?
Am I?
Hot take number 2. We're on number 8. Persona 3 Fez.
Mm-hmm.
Persona 3 Fez is maybe not even the best version of Persona 3, but I think it is the best one to grab for the PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
It is. It gives you the exploration, the anime cutscenes and everything that you would want out of a Persona game. It gives you the gameplay. They tweaked and fixed some things in that gameplay, and then they added some more to the ending, more content to kind of pad out the to kind of pad out the what happened, explanation, all this stuff. Obviously, I don't think we need to go too deep into the Persona, but basically half high school life simulator, half dungeon crawler situation where at night you're out leveling up and doing the video gamey things that you do, and then during the day you're getting a new a party and hanging out with that party and spending time with people in the town and learning going on trips with your friends and your classmates and learning what they're about. Just a great, really long RPG with a fantastic story and fantastic gameplay, and it does that thing that I love so much of half the day is this, half the day is that, half the day is this, and it's got the whole social management thing going on where do I want to spend my time with this person or do I want to spend my time with that person? What are the benefits of each? Who do I want to date? That's another big part of the game. You gotta
find best girl.
Mitsuru. So I'm going with Persona 3 Fez Edition.
Short for festive.
For number 8. What do you got? Number 7.
Number 7, I have Soul Calibur 2.
Ooh.
This is a spicy mamacita of a game. It's probably my favorite fighting game of all time.
Yeah.
Like I could go play it right now for hours with somebody else. This game's like close to me because me and my brother played this together constantly, and we were always like trying to one up each other.
PS2 is great.
Yeah, PS2 is sweet.
Soul
This
Calibur
game
is
just
great.
freaking awesome, man. I'm just like, it's great. Just a great fighting game.
Yeah, it is. This was the Heihachi version of the game. All the versions are fine.
Yeah.
People seem to rank GameCube, PS2, Xbox with the character selection for whatever
everybody
reason.
Everybody has their guest character they like for sure, but
no, this is a really still to this day holds
people
up
still talk about this game
so well. It's the one that got the HD-ified version. It's the one that people, whenever a new one comes out, they're like, but what inspiration are you taking from Soul Calibur 2? It is so unbelievably.
Yeah, there's a nice between like FGC people. There's a cool emulating program. I think it's called Dolphin something, but people still play this online against each other.
Game is awesome.
Yeah,
it's like timeless. Like
well, that's why too. Even though 3, okay, not bad. 4, 5, oh my god, like even though it's gone downhill. We get an announcement for 6, and they're asking, "Does your soul still burn?" And it's just like I'm remembering 2. I'm just like, yeah, it does.
Soul Calibur. That's what I remember when you open up the game.
It's definitely still the best Soul Calibur. It might not have had the best guest character. Obviously, it's hard to compare Link versus Heihachi or Spawn or whatever. But whatever, it's Soul Calibur, and it's really good.
Yeah, games are awesome. The rest of the character lineups in the game were just insane. Like, they had all the ones from the first one that were, like, the best, and then they added some sweet new characters, and it was just sweet. So good.
Number 7?
Sure.
Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty. I think it's one of the greatest timepiece games to ever be released. It was the first huge breakout, or one of the first huge breakout games centered around like postmodernism. I don't like to get too deep into game analysis like that, but that's one that just always sticks out with me, especially because years later, the kind of shows and movies and stuff that I'm into, like the Tom Clancy kind of stuff, like political espionage, sort of like that's my game. That's my thing that I'm into. I think it had an excellent use of storytelling for an action game. Go figure that Kojima's gonna pull something like that out. Because like the enemies and the bosses and the people that you fight, like they get as much screen time or more, definitely than Snake in this game. But then like the people that you're used to playing with, your NPCs and not really party members, but the people that are kind of on your side, like they spend a lot of time going into backstories and why is this guy bad, but why is this guy not working with the other bad guy? Like, you just get so much out of this game. I think Raiden's inclusion, which is obviously the biggest arguing point between people that like 2 and don't like 2. I think Raiden's inclusion was one of the biggest like video game curveballs, at least up to that point in time. But I think it worked for me because like you got to see Snake, that was obviously the protagonist of like the games at this point. You got to see him in like a different light, and that was cool just to get that firsthand rather than having to do that on your own or just like listen to other people's take on who Snake was and if he was cool or not, sort of thing. Enemy AI, I think this is the first time, definitely in the series, but one of the first few games where you started getting people that traveled in like packs. So obviously if there's 10 guys in the room, a lot of games at the time would have this guy is his own independent thing, this guy's his own independent thing. But now, in this game, in Metal Gear Solid 2, you could take out this guy in the corner, and this guy's going to patrol and see that, and he's going to go, hey, this guy's not here anymore. What happened? And that guy's following him. So, like, you had to think about, like, patterns and groups and stuff like that, rather than just, how do I get this next 6 feet and take out this guy? How do I get the next 6 feet sort of thing? And I think, at least according to me, has the best story in any of the Metal Gear games. I think I like it the most. Like I said, political espionage obviously is kind of like the running theme in the entire series, but I think it just worked for me, especially bouncing back between two characters like it did, and yeah, it was just interesting.
So, is the story the main reason you pick it over 3? Since they're both on the same console, why this one over 3?
I think 3 is overrated. I think there's a lot of pacing issues with the story, so yeah, I will take the story over it. 3 is just a lot more dry. Obviously, it gets a lot more credit, I think, between most people. I think Metal Gear Solid 2 is still higher rated. It's like a 97 and a 96, I think, or something like that. Not that it really matters too much. I think 2 serves as a better, like, here's what Metal Gear can do. 3 is just like, we took the best parts of some of the other games and maybe made it better and just had a few memorable moments. I think 2 has a little bit more variety, a little bit more stuff to do. You get more characters. And yeah, it's sort of like the Tom Clancy sort of thing, more so compared to 3. 3 was a lot of backstory and just like, not really narrative, but it was just like, it went so deep into this stuff that you already knew, because by the time 3 released and Substance or whatever, it had so many holes to fill with the story, and 3 I think is still chronologically the first one, so it had a lot of exposition to do.
It wasn't the time though.
Yeah. But yeah, it had so much like setup to do. It was like, hey, this is why the thing happened in 1 and 2. Like, it had to go like in such a deep backstory. It was just like, just give me the game sort of thing. And
I only played 2, so never got to play 3. So definitely like 2 better. Had fun with the game.
Yeah.
3's got a lot of realistic stuff that they tried to pull and be kind of cute. Like your food goes bad and stuff. I'm like, all right, guys.
That's fine.
The one boss that can fall asleep if you take too long while fighting is just like, I fell asleep doing this.
All right, number 7. We have God of War 2. What a crazy list this is. God of War 2, I still cannot believe that game can run on a PlayStation 2. It is insane. The scale of that game is absolutely crazy. Just the fact that they're just throwing you in and they're like, all right, we're picking up right where we left off, and it is like they kind of tease you with God of War 1's ending, and you're like, oh man, I want to see. Oh, here we are. This is awesome. What is this going to be about? How are they going to deal with the fact that you are so powerful now? How are we, And they do a really good job. And to me, God of War, while it has great gameplay, and I love the gameplay for sure, and obviously I was a kid, so I loved the violence and nudity and all the stuff that was in the game. My favorite thing about God of War is the story. Like, I love the Greek mythology tragic hero story. Like, that's what all of those stories are kind of about. And I've never fully understood I hate Kratos because I can't relate to him. Like, you're not supposed to relate to the dude that's done the terrible things and is still doing the terrible things. And we'll see how that goes, with the new
I don't know.
God
I feel
of
like
War.
if you're waking up on a throne with like naked women all around you and huge swords and stuff, like you're probably not worried about related to.
Yeah,
related to a
it's
video
just
game
a
character.
common complaint I see. They're like, well, I didn't like God of War because I couldn't relate to it. I'm like, man, that's not the point of that game. But yeah, gameplay wise, I think it kind of perfects God. It does the perfect sequel thing, which is take God of War 1 and polish everything and just add enough. Don't go too crazy over the top. Don't, ruin things that have been established and people liked. Continue the story and make it just as good. Like, it was one of the perfect sequels, I think.
It literally felt like someone was just like, hey, what'd you like about this game? Blah, blah, blah. Here's my little list. And it's like, okay, got it. And they just took it back to the studio. Hey, guys, we need to make this a little bit better. Remove this. Add all of this.
Yeah, and they added so much mobility and all this stuff. I know that they added some things, if you watch some documentary stuff, they added some things that they really wanted in God of War 1 and couldn't get it, and they were able to put it in this. And just the amount of, like, little upgrades that they did. Like, they have the big powers, but they're also like, oh, here's some gliding wings, and here's some, all this stuff. Really, really, really phenomenal and really holds up well still. And like I said, the scale of it's insane. I have no clue how it ran on the PlayStation 2, to be dead honest.
Yeah.
Todd, what's your number 6?
All right, so number 6 is Devil May Cry 3. And just a lot of the same reasons Nick had. The AI was just like really fun to play against. The game's like, it was one of the like first games that I played through by myself. Me and my brother used to play a lot of games together, and I just had like a really difficult time playing through it. Super fun, great game. I picked this over like 2's fine. It's not great, but
what's 2?
Yeah, one's really fun.
One's awesome. Yeah,
I like this one better. I think I like the combat in this one better. It's a little more in depth. I don't know. I think I like Dante better in this game. He's kind of like, they really got that like cool aesthetic about him in this game.
They ham him up a little bit.
Yeah,
like
that was cool.
They figured it out.
Game's a lot of fun though. Nick said a lot about it, and I agree with a lot of the stuff he said.
This is probably games like this is probably why I got into movies like Underworld. It was like, oh, like a vampire killer, stuff like that. It's just like, because that's kind of like the cool like leather jacket, guns.
Oh, this
blades,
dude made the
sort of thing.
trench coat cool.
Yeah. Hot Topic sales went through the roof
once
this game was released. Falling in line with Kevin, God of War 2. I think this game makes a strong argument for best sequel ever made. Every single category and aspect of the game was overhauled and pushed through on an already popular game. God of War 1 was very well received and really didn't need that much to be a successful sequel, but they did it. Combat and movement were beefed up thanks to the extra weapons and combos, and they added that cool grappling system to make transversing levels
that was cool.
Way more like cinematic, I guess is a good word for it. Set pieces were practically doubled in scale, thus being the reason why probably some PS2s melted in the process of playing it. And I think the pacing was improved a lot more. This one had a lot more, you're in an area, you're out of the area, you're in the area, you're out of it sort of thing, whereas I'm not going to knock 1 against it, but I just think it just did a little bit better.
Yeah, 1 took place technically all in kind of one area.
Yeah.
And this one was a lot more. So I also do want to throw out QuickTime events that weren't intrusive. Like, this is when QuickTime events not first shown up, but I feel like were used in a cinematic way that wasn't a cliche yet.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed them, except for the one where you have to keep hitting the same button over and over, because I was really bad at that.
Oh, I love it. Like the Hydra's like eating.
Yeah, in the first one, I legitimately couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Like, just straight couldn't do it, and I actually had to have my sister do it because she was really good at Mario Party.
That's awesome.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to give you the controller now. And I had her do that section because I could never do it.
I freaking love those things.
Fun fact.
In its time, I would have called it the best action game around.
Just straight action, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
Before action, adventure, roguelike, whatever started getting tossed around. Yeah, just straight action, because that's what it was.
All right. My number 6. Let me double check, because I got to make sure this is right. All right, guys. This list is insane. Number 6, Shadow of the Colossus. Talk about scale. Talk about games that I can't believe run on the PlayStation 2. And I will say it does have some frame rate stuff, issues with it. But it doesn't matter because it doesn't detract from the fact that this game is phenomenal. It is an open world game that makes use of its open world by making it empty, which is interesting. It is a puzzle game that is also an action game. That is also a story game, and none of them feel like that is what the game is, and that's really interesting and really telling. The fact that, you're climbing this Colossus and you're solving how you actually get up there and the timing of when you should grab onto something and when you should go, and, how far can I make it with this climb with my stamina meter and all this stuff. But you're not thinking of it like that as a puzzle. You're just kind of doing it naturally. It flows straight into the gameplay of you killing these Colossus, and then that is the story. Like, the gameplay is the story for this game. There's almost no voice acting. There's some subtitle stuff going on, and it's very few and far between. The game is boss fights and then very lonely isolation travel to the boss fights, and that's the entire system of it. And it's just beautiful. The music's fantastic. It's really engaging, and just what a special game. And almost, I dare to say, at least like 60-70% of game developers, if you ask them, like, what's a game that inspired you to want to, make games? They're like, oh, Shadow of the Colossus. Like, that is a really high up answer on that list.
Yeah,
so.
I can remember the first time playing that, and I was just like, I've got to fight that.
Yeah, you're literally smaller than its toenail.
Yeah.
You're like, all right, let's do this. Oh gosh, it's so epic.
Game's awesome.
Shadow of the Colossus is my number 6.
All right, number 5 for me is Prince of Persia: Sands of Time. This game is just very intriguing. Keeps you into the game all the time. It's got a good pace to it. The story is a little weak, but the gameplay itself is very fun.
Yeah,
they added mechanics that you haven't really seen in a game. Like the time mechanics were really fun. Like Kevin was talking about.
Just the acrobatics of it too, like the animation of the acrobatics and running up walls.
Yeah, it felt real fluid.
Stuff. So yeah, fluid
and
is a great word.
The little cinematic things were really cool to watch. Just a very fun game.
I'd really
combat's fun.
Really like to see this game in 60 frames. I think.
It'd be sweet.
I know they remastered it, but I don't know if it's 60.
I would love to see a revive of this franchise.
Yeah, they tried it in 2008, and it was really bad. Not really bad, but it was bad.
It wasn't good.
Yeah.
It didn't do the Prince of Persia justice.
I agree.
But 1, 2, and 3 Prince of Persia.
Really like the soundtrack too.
Soundtrack's cool, yeah.
Setting.
The levels are very fun. Yeah, right. The settings are really cool. Game's fun.
Number 5. Turning the corner.
We're getting there.
Technically pronounced Eco. I prefer Ico. But yeah.
I also called Ico.
Yeah, I
had to think about it.
I call it Ico.
I think Japanese language doesn't have the strong I's or something. I don't know, whatever.
Eco.
They pronounce it Eco, and they make it, so I guess that's right. But I'm calling it Ico.
Automata.
Best hand-holding simulator and prison escape puzzle game of all time. Having to guide Yorda around the area doesn't sound as compelling as it actually turns out to be. If you just told someone, "Hey, what do you do?" I'm walking a girl around.
Yeah, that's what you do.
And shouting every now and then. My personal favorite puzzle game, because you don't feel like you're trapped in the linear loop that a lot of the games can make you feel like you're in, even though it does. Puzzle games, it feels like the game's playing you, sort of thing. You are just trapped in what it wants you to do, and you're going from puzzle to puzzle or situation to situation. This one, even though it looked very open, it's still a pretty contained game, and it wanted you to go, or you went where it wanted you to go. It just didn't feel like you were being gamed by it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, there's a little bit of non-linear stuff to it, and you can do kind of solve some puzzles in not the way they intended type things, but the idea, or it is very open with a, hey, you should probably go the way that there's enemies type situation.
If I had to describe Ico in one word, it would be immersive. Very immersive, very intelligent, and very emotional. And they are Team Ico are able to make you feel so many things without the use of narrative and even a common language between the people who are.
Yeah, they speak different languages.
Between the people who are the two main characters. So it was really cool. Sweet little game. Could stand a remaster.
I think we're gonna get it. My number 5, and now we're really getting to the games that I love, and we've already done Shadow and God of War, so this Haunting Ground. So I was between the Haunting Ground and the Clock Tower situation. What's going on here? I went with Haunting Ground, mainly for its story and for the fact that it does add a lot of gameplay to it. And this is the beginning of my horror game, so here we go. Haunting Ground. A story about a girl who's basically kidnapped, put in this tower, and then has to escape from different varieties of one character. It's very much like a slasher movie. There's one guy who's chasing you around until you deal with him and finish that kind of scenario, and then there's another character who starts chasing you around a different section of the castle. And as you make it further and further, more of the castle opens up until you get to kind of the end game. You could technically go through the entire castle being chased by these characters. Like I said, slasher movie, you can open a door, open another door, hide in that room, and the villain will be like, oh, that door's open, she must have went that way, and then you make a U-turn through the way that they came. There's hiding spots where you can hide under a couch, and maybe the person will find you, or maybe they won't. But there's no fighting back, which is something huge for horror games for me that I really enjoy, is when maybe you can defend yourself a little bit, maybe there's some sort of event that you can trigger that stuns the enemy for a little bit so you can escape or something like that, but there's no combat in the game. It is all based off of how calm and collected you are, and as you panic more, You start fumbling, the screen starts blacking out in this one when you start panicking, which is very miserable to try to run away from something when the screen goes out and then comes back on and it goes into black and white and all this stuff. And the whole idea is if you get hit while you're panicking, you die. That's how you get the game over. So there'll be things like you're hiding under a couch, and if the enemy is standing by that couch for too long, eventually your panic freaks out and she runs out of the cover and you're not hiding there anymore. But the story is very, very adult. Arguably the most adult story I've seen on this system and in most games, heavily implying that they basically stole her to impregnate her, and this is the whole theme of the game.
Turkey baster.
But they do it in a way that I feel like is tasteful and respectful. It's not like, even though it is a Japanese game, it's not too crazy over the top.
Yeah, most mature stuff around this era was more expletives and like crude sexual kind of represent like a Grand Theft Auto or something like that. So.
This was done really well. And then just like things like cutscenes in this are still very, very pretty. Like they have that kind of still weird face animation. They hadn't quite figured that out. But like like lighting and hair and stuff looks so good in all of these cutscenes that they've done. It's one of the best looking ones. And then the gimmick for this one, and this shows how much I like this game, is that you have a dog. And you can be nice to the dog and give it treats, and it'll help you in combat and get like items for you if it sees it, and you can kind of command it to do things. It'll stun the enemy for you. Or you can be mean to it and neglect it, and it'll run away when something shows up and not help you at all. And there's 7 or however many different endings depending on what you do and depending on how much your character learns through the story before she leaves the environment and all that stuff. So really enjoyed this. One of the better survival horror games on the PlayStation 2 and definitely underrated overall. So Haunting Ground.
Yeah, I had never played this until we played it pretty recently together.
We went through
didn't
some
get to
of
finish it, but it was a lot of fun.
Oh, I got to
I
finish
definitely.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed that game. And it was a nice treat because it was one of those things that I like where it brings you back to that time period of gameplay and everything without it being super frustrating or feel too old. Like, it actually aged pretty well. It doesn't have tank controls or anything like that, which is helpful for that. Though I'm used to tank controls personally, but it's sometimes learning new control schemes in those old games is difficult, but this one was super easy to kind of pick up.
All right, so number 4.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting
I have Shadow of the Colossus. This game, I mean, Kevin said it all, but the game is just great. It's very different from any other game you're going to play on the PlayStation 2.
Or ever, really.
Yeah, ever, yeah, for sure. But this game just really, like, something about the scale of this Colossus when you start playing this game, you're like, whoa, this is insane. It's very, like... It's crazy. You get very in-depth with your character. You just feel like, it's you against this crazy thing, and you have to figure out basically like what's going on throughout this whole thing. There's I don't know, it's very fun. It's very it does a very good job of putting you in the place and making you feel the way that your character is supposed to feel. So it's really fun.
Verticality is kind of a good word nowadays, especially with like the Zeldas and the Xenoblade games and stuff like that. Like now that games have mastered, hey, there's way more area than you can explore this way. Now we got to go this way. Mm-hmm. That was the first game that was just like, yeah, I know you guys are still figuring out this, but we're going this way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's so crazy. Really I still can't believe that thing. And just like the movement of something, how like one little shake on a colossi up here will eventually hit down here, and if you're not holding on for that, you're gonna get like thrown off its back.
Really
It's
cool.
so good. It's so good.
It's good too, and I'm sure there'll be a whole new class of people once the remaster comes out this year. But it's always nice to see like the first time someone encounters like Colossi 1, Colossi 2, sort of thing, and it's just like it's always nice just to kind of see that first couple of times. You're just like, oh my gosh, like
and where you fight
this
them
is crazy.
is so
It's
different,
awesome.
and
It's very fun.
Well, reason that I said I was glad Todd was here versus Kellen for one specific thing is that number 4 is Grand Theft Auto Vice City.
Nice.
I think whenever you try and rank Grand Theft Auto titles, it always comes down to a few different factors: main character, soundtrack, and setting. In this situation, at least, I think Vice City has the best main character with Tommy Vercetti.
Oh, yeah.
Really cool guy. I think it has the best soundtrack because it has everything from electronic music to pop, rock, hair metal, whatever. You name it, it's there. And above all, I think the setting is the best of any of the games because you're basically in southern Florida in the middle of the 80s. Like the hottest place to be, probably temperature-wise, but also just like stuff going on, all the different cultures running around, and just everything is just happening there, and you're right in the middle of it. I think it's the brightest and the flashiest and the most fun of the Grand Theft Auto games, and I think it's ripe with references to all sorts of shows and movies that I personally love from that decade. Scarface, Miami Vice, Reservoir Dogs, Indiana Jones. You even get a cool picture of Ronald Reagan shooting Mikhail Gorbachev.
That's awesome.
It's just got everything in it. Everything from racing like a DeLorean down the street to the cool speedboats and the sport bikes. All of that was fun to drive. Really cool. It made you feel like a cool dude going down those at night and having like a cool soundtrack bumping. And I think Vice City was the most complete package of any of the Grand Theft Auto games. I think it wins out just barely between like the awesome shenanigans of like San Andreas, because it went just Vice City kind of went over the edge, and then San Andreas just flew off as far as just like the wacky stuff you can do, and stuff like GTA 5's online feature, like that gets hailed as, really awesome feature. But I think Grand Theft Auto Vice City just kind of had it all one nice package, and it just did it better than the other ones.
I agree. My number 4 is Team Ico's best game, Ico. This is my favorite of their trilogy of games. Obviously, for all the reasons that you said, the fact that you are so compelled to save this girl that you know nothing about. You don't know if she's, a princess or a thief, or you know what I mean. You got her out of a jail cell.
It's not like a sister. It's not like anything.
But you're just
don't even
compelled
speak the same
to save this girl. And the mechanic of holding somebody's hand and helping them up a block and then climbing up another block and helping them up a block is so horrible in every video game I've ever played, except for this video game. I always describe this game as similar to another game, but flipped. I describe this as Zelda without combat, as opposed like this is just the puzzles of doing, going through this very pretty, basically Zelda dungeon. And there is combat in the game, but it doesn't matter that much. It's not the focus of the game.
Yeah, it's more like a shoe fly, go away.
Yeah, basically you're like, I'm protecting this girl.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is they come and they take the girl, and it's game over when the girl gets taken, not when you
you can't even really.
Yeah. So I just really like how simple the idea of the companionship in this game is. And just, I'm here, we need to get there, let's figure out how to do that by, pushing some blocks or, moving some things around and climbing some chains and stuff. But it is just tranquil enough and interesting enough and exciting enough to keep bringing you forward, and that you run into a couple interesting characters on the way. And I really, really, really do like Ico, and I also really, really hope we see a remaster soon of the game in particular. But number 4, Ico.
I don't think I've ever had a game, at least to that point. This is probably the first one that made me like protective of someone in the game. I was just like, no, you get away, my order.
It's also cool that if you beat the game, you unlock. There's different things that you can unlock based off of, like, did you get this special item in the game? Did you beat the game in? I think there's a certain time limit that you could beat the game in, and like one of the things you unlock is subtitles. Like that's an unlock. So when you play the game a second time, you do know what they're saying, even though they're speaking in different languages. And the other thing you unlock is 2-player mode, where the other person gets to play as Yorda and control her, so she's less helpless. But it's fun. I've gone through it in co-op and by myself.
That's awesome.
Thoroughly enjoyed it.
All right, number 3. This was a hard one for me. It's between Kingdom Hearts and Kingdom Hearts 2. And I chose the first Kingdom Hearts.
I was hoping you were going to say not Kingdom Hearts.
This game was really fun for me at the time. I'm a really big Disney fan. I don't know, the character was awesome. The weapon you're using was like so unique and cool at the time. and just like going through these levels, and they got the personalities of all the Disney characters like perfect. The levels are really fun. The boss fights are fun. It's just a
it's a really.
fun,
I
good
still
game.
remember the commercial for the first Kingdom Hearts and being like, I want to hang out with Jack Skellington
Oh, yeah.
with a key. And I don't think I ever played an RPG when I got Kingdom Hearts, and I was like, I don't know what this is. So like, I didn't change my weapon. I didn't upgrade, like use the items on my characters. I didn't do any of that. I just went through the game, and I didn't know what leveling up meant or was.
Yeah.
I was just like, I want to see what the next Disney
This
thing
is definitely one of a few games that like really got me into RPGs. It's a really, really good game.
You said the first one?
Yep. First Kingdom Hearts.
Number 3, the...
Kingdom Hearts 2.
No. Spoiler alert for those watching. You can go ahead and close out now. Number 3, the best Zelda game of all time, Okami.
Looks like we already did that guy.
No, that was Zelda without blah, 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 blah. This is Zelda. Took the best parts of Zelda games like Twilight Princess and added a great story and cast of characters to it. And the combat and challenges were right where they needed to be. Ramped up, but not like overly oppressive or anything like that. Amaterasu, the doggy, very iconic character. Really like the way she looks, and just, I don't know, it was just really nice to have that. And speaking of the way things look, presentation and the style, I know kind of jump back into talking about like Persona 5 and some other games of recent years. We talk about style. This is the most stylistic, flashy, like whatever. At least at this game's time, even with the HD port, it's still very high up there. HD version, like I said, still stands up to just about any game out there now. And the awesome combination of Japanese like woodcutting and watercoloring was just very unique to this game and just makes it what it is. It's got a massive overworld and tons of areas to explore with lots of variation. You're going from like forests to beaches to towns and caves and dungeons and stuff like that. And I think, or not even think, I looked it up, has the highest user score of any PS2 game on Metacritic.
Oh, really?
Of all the games.
That's
so
interesting.
I think people can back me on that one. Really, really love Okami, as you can tell by me putting it at number 3. Very sweet place in my heart for that game. And the HD version just made it that much better.
Learning a lot about you.
Sort of like you
Gotta
said,
say.
maybe in a recent podcast, makes you go back and obviously when you played these games in the 2000s and the whenever, you remembered it looking a certain way. Mm-hmm. And now when you get the 4K version, you're just like, that's what I remember it like.
Yeah.
Not the grainy, worse looking
Standard
version with the
definition,
frame rate problems. You're like, we got it. We're back.
Number 3?
Mm-hmm.
All right, time for me to get real excited. Here's another hot take. Dark Cloud 1. Oh boy, do I love Dark Cloud, and I think Dark Cloud 1 is better than 2, even though a lot of people think 2 is the best. It has topped lists on the console, yeah. But Dark Cloud 1 is it reminds me a lot of what I like about Persona 3, and that is it's a split adventure. It is a dungeon crawler where you go into a dungeon, you press your luck. Do I want to leave after this floor, or do I want to keep going and try to make it further? But if I die, it's game over, and I have to restart from where I saved last, which was outside of the dungeon. And the dungeons are procedurally generated. This is a PlayStation 2 game, procedurally generated. This was not a, thing that every game did like we have now. So the dungeon was different every time, and how you got out of the dungeon was you killed the monsters, and one of them had a key. It could be the first one you fight. It could be the last one you fight. It could be behind a secret area that requires an item. It could just be right out in the open. You don't know. And that was part of the fun because it has this sort of now overused term, but this sort of Dark Souls-y combat where you lock on with one guy, you face off, and you kind of have this backflip to dodge, this left, jump dash to dodge, and you're going in for the attack. There's a lot of system management going on. You have a water meter that constantly drains unless you're standing in water, so you need to make sure you bring water with you. You have health, so you need food. There's, you can be poisoned or have all these things happen to you. And then, so you're basically timed because your water meter is going down. And then on top of that, your weapons break. So you need to make sure that you bring things to repair your weapons. And your character doesn't get stronger. it is all weapon based for how strong you are. So in theory, if you only had one weapon, which you wouldn't, but if you only had one weapon and it broke in the dungeon and it's gone, you are now back to the start of the game in your power level, technically.
Yeah.
Obviously, once you figure it out, you won't let that happen, but it just adds this intensity to every fight where if they're blocking and you hit them, the weapon takes more damage than if they weren't. So you can't just go in and wailing on things.
Mm-hmm.
On top of that, you are collecting objects while you're in there. So you might collect a person or a house or a chimney or whatever it is. And then when you come out into the normal world from the dungeon, it literally becomes a top-down simulator where you rebuild everybody's house, and then you can explore that town that you've built, and you talk to them, and they'll say, hey, I used to love being by the lake and the windmill, and now you know that when you get the windmill and the lake pieces, you need to put it by that house, and you can reconstruct the town correctly to how it was before it was encapsulated in these things and put in the dungeon. And you get rewarded for that. So it has this awesome, you're building the town as you're going, and you want to continue because you want to be able to finish their houses, and you finish their houses and you get new weapons, and then you do this whole loop, and then you finish it, and then it's like, oh, that was the first one. There's still a forest level and a sand level, and they have all these levels, and every one you get a new party member, and they all have a really good backstory. And you can swap members on the fly, so like, one has ranged weapons, one has magic, one's melee, and you need them all for special things. There are certain dungeon levels that you're required to only use this character, or you're not allowed to heal on this level, or you can't swap your weapon on this level, so they have all these stipulations going on. Just a really, really good dungeon crawling risk-reward game.
Yeah.
That has a very peaceful overworld building system where you're talking to people and trying to make them happy, basically. Really love Dark Cloud, and the reason I put it over Dark Cloud 2 is because Dark Cloud 2 adds too much. They have all that stuff, which is great. The graphics of Dark Cloud 2 are definitely better. They have like the cell shade going on. It looks beautiful still, but they add this capturing Pokemon system where you can capture all of the enemies, and you need certain ones to progress, and then they have a time traveling system where there's past and present versions of everything, and it's like there's way too many. The game that already had, I think, just enough systems added way too many more. And then they added multiple main characters, and they added a photo system where you take photos and those produce items, and then you use those items to make new things. I'm like, there's too much going on too fast.
I just heard Pokemon and taking pictures, and now I really want to play Pokemon.
But anyway.
But yeah, it sounds like they very Japanese did.
They added too many systems to a game that I think they could have just tweaked the combat a bit and added more of what they already had instead of adding new systems to it. So, but yeah, Dark Cloud 1 is absolutely phenomenal on PlayStation 2 still, and you can get it on PlayStation 4 classics and stuff like that. So that was my number 3. Number 2, Todd.
Number 2, Jack 2. So actually not a big fan of platforming games, as Kevin knows, because he always tries to get me to play them.
He stopped trying with me.
Yeah, but I don't know, something about this game I just fell in love with when I ended up renting it from Blockbuster one day. Played through it, had a blast with it. The characters are awesome. And then a week later, I went out and bought the game, or my parents bought the game for me. I played through this game multiple times. Jack and Dexter are awesome characters. It's funny. It's I don't know. It just has a lot of great qualities. The combat's fun. The actual platform.
Not to give away my picks, but is this the Grand Theft Auto-y one with the cars, where you steal cars and stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this game is awesome. I don't know. I could play through it today and just have just as much fun as I did when I played it through the first time.
The Jack games are good.
Game. They are.
They are very good, and I think they're actually super underrated.
Yeah.
They get overshadowed by Crash Bandicoot and
for sure,
things like that.
Ratchet and Clank and
yeah, that was also another problem. They had a lot of similar mascots at that time.
Yeah, but I don't know, for some reason
Jack's really good.
This is the one out of those other platformers at the time that really, I don't know, just kind of stole my heart. Really fell in love with Jack and Dexter.
That's fair. I like it.
Number 2, Persona 3 FES. We could spend upwards of 3 or 4 hours debating which Persona to plug in here, especially if we had our pick of not having been tied to the PS2 or certain dates or anything like that. But for PS2 only, I think FES is the best choice because if you go with 4, you're lacking content. 3, like you already mentioned, gets that extra content at the end that sort of delves into the what's the impact now sort of thing. Persona itself, I know a big point of contention with a lot of people, especially when they're thinking about buying it, playing it, especially the older ones. They know it starts off slow. They know it's a very exhaustive system of, I mean, people, when you talk about choice-based games, people like to say the Mass Effects and the stuff where, these decisions change the way you play the game. Like, they think of games with big moments that have decisions, but you're literally making decisions 2 or 3 times every single day for a year inside the game. So I think this is a decision-based game, and I think that's what helps me like the game more. 3, 4, whichever one, is because you get the daily, just constant struggle of, okay, I've got 10 things I want to do, 7 people I want to talk to, about 5 activities I want to go do, and a couple more things, and you have to pick and choose because casual people can just jump in and say, hey, I like talking to these few people. You just go talk to them and build your relationship with them, go find your best girl, and, be content there and just play out the story that way. More hardcore people will be like, no, I've got to get to level 99 with this guy and get all my stats up and find the best people sort of thing. And you can finish the game quite easily when you do it that way. And then there's like the master tier people who are just like, I'm going to do it both sort of thing. I'm going to talk to everyone while still grinding the characters, and I'm just going to get the perfect run every time. I don't know. I know that I can understand people just going into a game like that and just be like, oh my God, it's just so much. Like, I don't want to feel that sort of pressure, but I love it. Obviously, I think out of this entire top 10 that I've put together, at least, the best cast of characters, I'm sure games that you guys mentioned might contend with that, I guess. But I don't know. I liked everyone. It was hard for me to run into
Jack Skellington, Ursula.
It was hard for me to run into people not named Bebe who I just didn't like. I liked everyone a lot, and it made
it's just
it
really well written.
Yeah, and I think it's a better launching point. I know you, me, and Kellen, we started with 4, went back to 3, went to 5, some maybe gone into 2 a little bit. I think it's just nice to start with 3 because that was the point where it was going with Shin Megami games, and it finally started to distance itself and become its own franchise rather than just kind of a spin-off cool idea. And so this one kind of found its identity. It's known. Obviously, you get 3, 4, now 5. With the 5th one coming out this last year, it makes it seem like it's an actual series or a bunch of sequels. These games are very independent of each other. But I will say that this one, as far as the trilogy of 3, 4, 5, this was the dark one. This is the dark tone, serious issues sort of thing, and heavier topics. And I like that one a lot more. I think it fits with the PS2 a little bit. That's when, sort of like you mentioned with Haunting Ground, that's when storylines and stuff like that finally became adult. It was, it wasn't just bright, cheerful, go collect the coins and princess sort of thing. It was like, hey,
go collect the princess.
Was many times you have to save her. It's basically collection at this point. This is when games started to be, a little bit more adult. Hey, we can tell something that's not just like go have fun for 30 minutes. Like, we can actually do story and stuff now. So I think it fit with the theme a lot more of the system. Never going to knock Persona 4, but I think 3 is the better choice for this type of list. And it makes more sense to play 3 because 4 is going to have a little bit better systems. 5 is going to have better systems, so it sucks to jump back and forth.
Yeah.
Like that.
There's only one unfriendly system, I think, in 3. And that's the, I don't remember exactly what it's called, but the stamina system.
Yeah.
That's the only one that I think is a turn off completely for new players because it's like, why? I want to keep playing, and it's telling me no.
Yeah, not the easiest Persona to jump into. And like I said, you go in knowing that there's the oppressive system that they hadn't fine-tuned at that point. Like I said, this was the first one. It's sort of like Grand Theft Auto 3, where 1 and 2 were very distinct styles, and then Grand Theft Auto 3 just did its whole thing, and then the series took off from there. Very much the same here. 1 and 2 for Persona were Shin Megami knockoff games. For the most part, they were side projects or spin-offs. This one was just like planting its flag in the ground. We are Persona now, and just took it from there. So,
my number 2 is Silent Hill 3. Another hot take. I got all these hot takes today. Silent Hill 3 is better than Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill 3 has the best main character, the most relatable main character, I think so. And it's a character who isn't just a frail character that's, easily frightened or taken advantage of or any of that stuff. She's got a little fight in her. She's got a little attitude to her, and it makes her a really good contender for a main character for something that is horror-based. I think that it has very interesting, I think this is where they really got the puzzles down from being kind of a slog into something that is a little bit more, I got it type situation. And then as far as monster designs, minus Pyramid Head, which obviously I love Pyramid Head, but as far as monster designs relating to the main character and events in their life and their past and all that stuff, I think this one does a very good job at making it doesn't that look like something that maybe this teenage girl might have thought up or something like that? So I think it does a really good job with that. That said, the story is really brutal and gruesome, and I think once again I just think it's the best of all the Silent Hill stuff has to offer in that generation of the tank controls and the what they were going for. I really do think it took 2's stuff and then perfected it and made it better. There's obviously the combat system, which I talked about not being a huge fan of combat, but what I am a fan of is when you do have combat, you got to limit your bullets. You've got to make it so that it is difficult to fight back and cost something to fight back. It can't just be, I'm able to fight back and defend myself. You have to have every shot that you take has to mean something. And they do that perfectly. They do a really good job of introducing the game with this really twisted intro, and then they keep calling back to it because that's going to be towards the end of the game, so that they give you something to keep striving for, to keep going to figure out what's happening with this character that you like so much. And the game has a really cool twist in it that I enjoyed thoroughly. So mainly on the back of 1, it controls a little better, and I just feel like it ups everything a little bit from 2, but mainly on the back of the main character being Heather, such a likable character for horror. I pick Silent Hill 3 as my Silent Hill entry on the list. And then Silent Hill 4 wasn't even a Silent Hill game, so I'm not even... It literally wasn't. And they were like, make it Silent Hill so it sells. And then they added the Silent Hill stuff to it. It's not bad, but it's just not Silent Hill to me. So
sounds a lot like PT.
What?
No, I'm just kidding. But they attached the name Silent Hill to it.
That's totally different.
All right, so my number 1 is God of War 2. Yeah.
I should have known.
This is my favorite game ever.
When I think of Todd in video games, I think of God of War, to be fair.
Kratos is my favorite video game character.
Oh, and I should talk to him earlier.
This game...
He can relate to him.
Yeah. I don't relate to him, but being a little kid, seeing... tits and blood all over the place was awesome. The combat in this is sweet. The cinematics are sweet. I could go right now and play through this game again. It's really cool. And it was the best looking game I've played on PlayStation 2.
I don't know. I need to see a comparison, but I think it is arguably the best.
It is awesome.
It was a super late game.
I was going to say it was at the very tail end.
It came out when PlayStation 3 was out, right?
I'm not sure.
It was close to it.
But the cinematic fights in this game, I love the first God of War, don't get me wrong, but this one just it took everything awesome about that and added some real cool story twist. The cinematic fights, it just made them better. You kind of had more dialogue from Kratos than you had in the first one, instead of just this super angry dude that you had in the first game.
I feel like cinematic wasn't a key word of action games until...
Yeah,
obviously 1, but right. 2 up the ante.
Yeah, it just did such a good job. One great example of that is, I don't want to spoil anything because people might play this game, but the game is fantastic. And just I'm a really big fan of Greek mythology, So it's really cool seeing a lot of those characters come to life, and you get to fight them, which is awesome. So.
Yeah, I loved their interpretation. Like, even in the first one, there isn't that much.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you see some of their interpretations of stuff, but in this one, you see like all their gods and the Titans and all the stuff that they were able to realize, and they did a really good job with.
And I think this game does a great job of it'll have a cinematic, and then you'll go into combat, but it still feels like you're in that cinematic that you just watch, but you're just playing. You're playing through it.
Yeah, they had like the super CG cutscenes in like the beginning, and there might have been one or two in the middle somewhere. I'm not. I don't even actually know. I don't think there was any in the middle.
I don't think so.
I think the game is continuous. There's no loading screens or anything.
Right.
So like I don't want to spoil stuff, but there is a lot of times where the camera will like zoom out. You see how big everything is, and like it's playing this cutscene, and then it just zooms back into Kratos, and you're controlling them.
Yes, and you're going through this epic fight where you're trying to connect these buttons. Timingly and doing these cool combos on the guys. They added, cool new weapons and features that your character can do as far as movement and combat.
They had a lot of really cool boss fight like gimmicks that were neat too.
Yes, and like they added cool like things and you'd be in the middle of a boss fight and there'd be like this little cinematic of like a bystander like, oh no, and then you get eaten by the monster or something. It's really, really cool.
I like what you mentioned, that it wasn't just like here's a god, and that's the thing about Greek mythology. You can just name billions of characters if you wanted to, and seeing like the smaller scale people who are more on the Kratos kind of level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it was really cool, like because every like boss you ran into was like, this is why I have a problem with you, and then you started fighting.
Yeah, everyone's cool. Like your stern father or something. Like that.
Yeah, very fun game.
Number 1. Oh, if I can get it to load. Kingdom. Just kidding. That game sucks. Shadow of the Colossus. A true masterpiece and one of the very best video games ever released. Period. Gonna use a big word. The juxtaposition of various gameplay elements and emotions is what makes the game as highly revered as it is, especially for me. You have factors like isolation and desolation and solitude that combats with like the sheer terror and intensity of encountering many of the colossi. You go from big, vast, open nothingness to, oh my god, you're just freaking out because you're obviously climbing and fighting a titan. Or, a colossus. You have a righteous quest that propels you forward through the story, but there's also constantly this like looming like moral ambiguity, I guess you can call it, that just kind of keeps pulling you back. Like, you know what you're doing this for, but the further...
You're doing it because the game, it's a game, and video games.
Well, yeah, and the game gives you a good reason to, why you're it's not just a bored guy who's wandering around. Like, you have a solid reason for doing what you're doing, but the more you do it, the further you get through, like the less good it feels. That doesn't mean the gameplay goes down, because it's actually quite the opposite. I think it ramps up the entire time. The excitement snowballs through the entire game. There's also the epic like David versus Goliath kind of feeling of overcoming like nearly impossible obstacles while getting next to nothing as far as like traditional narrative devices go. I think the enormous scale of the game was the biggest eye catcher of the time, and it still holds up today, especially since there's a remastered version that has been released this year. The experience undoubtedly grows as the game goes along, like I said, and it constantly feels like it kind of like one-ups itself. That doesn't mean to say like the last thing you fight is better than the first thing. Everyone kind of has their favorite colossi in the game. But just like it keeps up in the ante as you go along. It doesn't just get stale. It's not one of those games where you're a master because you beat the first thing and everything just is kind of easy after that. Not at all. And I think the best phrase that describes this game, and even for Ico, really, is that it does so much with so little. You really just don't need a lot of the typical devices that games throw at you. You don't need a big lore section. You don't need, in the beginning, blah, blah, blah. You don't need a codex. You don't need a journal for how to fight the thing, and you don't have to sit there and prepare your meal before you fight the big monster. It's just, go do it.
Number 1, Kingdom Hearts 2. I like Kingdom Hearts 1 was a fantastic entry into this universe. It was very much Save the Princess story. It was a very simple story that had a really interesting story going on above it about all these worlds and how they're all connected and how they all broke apart, and you're able to go to these different worlds, and each one happens to be Disney themed. And they don't explore that much. And while I love Kingdom Hearts 1, Kingdom Hearts 2, I think, is one of those sequels that just ups everything in every way. It adds verticality, it adds mobility, it adds all this little upgrade system to allow your character to get more mobile, as I was saying. And then they add these flashy, amazing combos to the combat, where there's literally a scene where you're fighting 100 things at once on the PlayStation 2, and it doesn't blow up. It just... I said it, I think, 2 or 3 times here with the scale. This game has that scale of God of War and that scale of Shadow of the Colossus, where it's I don't know how my PlayStation is able to play this right now. But Kingdom Hearts 2 adds the story and the context to Kingdom Hearts 1, and it throws some wrenches into the story of Kingdom Hearts 1. And I think it's better gameplay-wise, narrative-wise, all that stuff. It adds new mechanics that don't take away from the old ones, which is something that I want in the sequel. And it even takes stuff that people complained about with Kingdom Hearts 1 and makes them better, mainly the gummy ship, which is, I think, by far the worst part of Kingdom Hearts 1. I don't think anybody enjoys the gummy ship. And then, obviously, it sets the groundwork for them to shoot off 8 spin-off games that you get to play, so that's real sweet. So, Kingdom Hearts 2, my favorite Kingdom Hearts, out of all of them, actually, is my number 1. Which leads us to some very interesting and depressing tiebreakers for our lists. So the first tiebreaker that we need to break is Grand Theft Auto Vice City, which was on your list, correct? Okay, so this is probably easy. But Grand Theft Auto Vice City versus Persona 3 Fez.
This is for number 10?
No, this is just
a tiebreaker. Just a tiebreaker?
Yeah.
Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, I assumed you would pick that.
Persona. I had it higher.
Yeah, see, that's my problem. I also had Persona higher, but we all did have Grand Theft Auto on our list, which is why I was like, well, we all at least agreed that Grand Theft Auto should be on the list, which is why I put Grand Theft Auto for that reason.
What spot is it? Oh, I mean, yeah, it's not going to be a knockout. So
no, we'll get to the knockout.
I can see that. Okay, I'll say Grand Theft Auto then.
Yeah.
In that case.
I'll tell you when we get to the knockout.
Okay, if it's a knockout,
There is one knockout, and we all picked different games, and none of us have them on the list.
Fight.
Oh, Jesus.
Next up is Jack 2 versus Silent Hill 3. Which I'm obviously picking Silent Hill 3, and I'm assuming picking Jack 2.
I'd say Jack because I think the bigger majority, I guess, or a larger majority would say Silent Hill 2. I don't know off the top of my head. I'm not a Jack and Daxter person, but I've heard at least a lot about Jack, so I would side with that. And it feels more PlayStation-y, and I'm never going to suggest a horror game that isn't Resident Evil, so sorry.
Next up, Kingdom Hearts, Okami, and Dark Cloud. Knowing one of these is getting eliminated.
Okami.
That's your elimination?
No. I want Okami out of the 3.
Are you saying to rank them?
One?
You eliminate one.
Yeah.
Oh, Dark Cloud.
Dark Cloud.
Really? Interesting.
I mean, I want to, but, this is a professional list here, so...
All right, and then it's Okami versus Kingdom Hearts.
Okay.
Okami.
Did you even have Okami on your list?
No.
Okay.
Well, it's Kingdom Hearts 2.
Huh?
He voted 1.
This is Kingdom Hearts 1.
Oh, it's 1?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is Kingdom Hearts 1.
I'll still vote Okami.
Okay.
He's seen the light.
Well, I think we're going to have Kingdom Hearts 2 on here, right?
They'll both be on there.
Okay. I mean, I think we should just get one on there.
Well, that's not what you're voting for right now.
Okay. Well, I still vote Okami. I didn't think about it when I made my list, but the game's awesome.
To be fair, preamble before this video went live is I mentioned Okami in passing for something else, and Todd goes, "Oh,
That's fine.
Yeah.
There's still another spot.
what he's saying is now number 10 is Kingdom Hearts
One.
1,
Yeah.
Okay.
and Silent Hill 3 was the other one.
Okami is.
No, what's
Dark
got
Cloud.
knocked? Dark Cloud. So it's Dark Cloud versus Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, if you guys are both voting for Okami, that's the final breakdown. It's Dark Cloud versus Kingdom Hearts.
I'm fine.
Okay.
Okay, so we're good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he just said it was awkward to have 2 and 1 both on the list.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm not going to complain. But
I am.
I really like Dark Cloud, so it's tough. But I mean, if I had to pick Dark Cloud over Kingdom Hearts 1, I'd still pick Kingdom Hearts 1, even though there's already a Kingdom Hearts, just because that's how it goes. Anyway, so our top 10 list is number 10, Kingdom Hearts. Number 9, Okami. Number 8, Silent Hill 3. Number 7, Jack 2. Number 6, Kingdom Hearts 2. Number 5, Persona 3 Fez. Number 4, Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Number 3, Ico. Number 2, God of War 2. And number 1, Shadow of the Colossus. Not a bad list.
I think it's a sweet list.
It's not a bad
My
list.
number 1's solidified, so
The top 3 sweet.
The top 3 is, I mean, even the top 4 with Vice City is actually way more kind of a mainstream top list than I thought we were going to get. But yeah, we had a lot of differing opinions, and this is kind of the first list where I think that happened, where there wasn't that much crossover. But that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine with me. I like it.
I'm cool with it.
We got both Kingdom Hearts games on it, which is impressive to me,
This
because I
list-
didn't think you were going to pick Kingdom Hearts
this
at
list
all.
could have gone south if we had different Grand Theft Auto interests, or if we picked different personas, or something like that. It was
it probably would have ripped. Well, maybe one Persona would still be on, but like they would have dropped off. The Grand Theft Autos could have dropped off, honestly, if that happened. So it would have been a very different list, but that is not what happened. So
I think I would, if I made one change, I would have said probably Devil May Cry is number 10, I think.
Oh, the one that got 6 points.
Yeah.
I would put Devil May Cry 3 is number 10 too.
I don't think Todd understands how this works.
Over Kingdom Hearts?
Yeah,
Okay.
what's it on your list?
It was like number 6.
What's Kingdom Hearts?
It was like number 3.
All right, that's it for this episode of the Press X
Number
Podcast.
3 was a toss-up between Kingdom Hearts 1 and Kingdom Hearts 2. So
Well, that's fair.
it was just, I don't know. It was a hard list to make, and it's even harder making this.
Yeah,
so.
the PlayStation. But that's what it happens.
Yeah.
With, so it's
I'm
what-
cool with this stuff.
I'm cool with it too.
I mean, the number 1 game is the number 1 game,
Oh,
so I'm going home happy.
All right, that's it for this episode
Literally.
of the Press X Podcast. Please put your top 10 PlayStation 2 list down below so we can check them out and see how you compare to our list. That's it. Thanks for being here, Todd.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here, Nick.
Shadow's the best.
Thank you for watching. We'll speak with you next time.